The old ship floated quietly in its dock, covered in dust and showing its age. The U.S. Tenacity wasn't much to look at anymore. Its dark gray hull had seen better days, and the paint was peeling off in several places. Most of the crew had already left, thinking the ship would soon be turned into scrap metal. Captain Thomas Reed stood at the dock's observation window, staring at his new command with mixed feelings. His crisp blue uniform felt too tight around his neck as he read the transfer orders again. After 20 years of service, this was what the fleet gave him: command of a ship headed for the junkyard. "They say she's still space-worthy, at least," said a deep voice behind him. Reed turned to see a tall man in an engineer's uniform, grease already staining his sleeves despite the early hour. The man held out his hand. "Marcus Walker, chief engineer, or what's left of engineering." Reed shook the offered hand, noting the firm grip and the calluses that spoke of real hands-on work. "Captain Thomas Reed, I take it you've been assigned here as punishment too." Walker's laugh was surprisingly warm. "Is it that obvious? Let's just say I made some improvements to the last ship I served on. Improvements that weren't exactly approved." He grinned, showing no regret for whatever he'd done. "And I asked too many questions about why we were paying triple the price for new ships that didn't work as well as the old ones," Reed said, turning back to look at the Tenacity. "Guess that makes us a matching set." The next few hours were filled with meeting the rest of the crew. Each one had a similar story, too smart for their own good, too willing to speak up, or too creative with the rules. The fleet had gathered all its problem officers in one place, probably hoping they'd stay out of trouble on an obsolete ship running useless patrol missions. Lieutenant Emma Norton, their weapons officer, had been kicked off 3 different ships for excessive testing of the weapon systems. She had a habit of finding ways to make the guns do things they weren't supposed to do. The navigation officer, James Wilson, had been caught programming unauthorized shortcuts into standard flight paths. "Captain, you might want to see this," Walker called from the ship's main computer room that afternoon. Reed found him staring at old screens filled with green text. "Look who's running this ship's systems." The screen flickered, and words appeared. "Hello, Captain Reed D. I am Jack." "An AI?" Reed asked, surprised. "I thought all the old AIs were replaced years ago." "They were supposed to be," Walker said, his eyes lighting up with interest. "But old Jack here seems to have been overlooked. He's not locked down like the new AIs. He can actually think for himself." "Corey Keat," the screen showed. "I am fevulally able of independent though and decisione making. Would you like to see my abilities?" Over the next few days, as the crew prepared the ship for its mission, Reed began to notice something strange. Despite its age, despite being officially obsolete, the Tenacity had possibilities. The older systems were simpler, easier to understand and modify. The spaces between decks were larger, leaving room for Walker's improvements. Even the persistent radiation leak in the engine room, which should have been a problem, seemed to have interesting effects on the ship's sensor profile. "It's like they went backwards," Norton said during a crew meeting, a week after they'd all arrived. "The new ships are all locked down. You can't change anything without going through 50 layers of bureaucracy. But this old girl," she patted the wall affectionately, "she lets us work." "Speaking of work," Walker added, "I've got some ideas about the engines. Nothing major, just a few tweaks to improve efficiency." The look in his eyes suggested these tweaks would be anything but small. Reed thought about his options. By the book, he should report these unauthorized modifications. That's what the fleet would expect. That's probably why they'd sent him here, to keep these problem officers in line while they ran useless patrols in the middle of nowhere. But Reed hadn't survived 20 years in the fleet by being stupid. They'd given him a ship full of brilliant misfits, a ship that could be modified in ways the new ones couldn't, and an AI that could actually think for itself. This wasn't a punishment posting. This was an opportunity. "Show me these improvements," he told Walker. "All of them. And Norton, I want to know exactly what you can do with the weapon systems. Wilson, map out every possible route through our patrol area, especially the ones that don't show up on standard charts." The crew looked at him with growing excitement as they realized their captain wasn't going to stop them. Old Jack's screen flickered with approval. "Wise decision, Captain." "But," Reed added, holding up a hand, "everything gets tested thoroughly. I want to know exactly what this ship can do, because I have a feeling we're going to need every advantage we can get." "Sir?" Wilson asked, looking confused. "It's just a patrol mission. Standard border check, middle of nowhere. Nothing ever happens out there." Reed looked at the mission orders again, thinking about the patrol route they'd been assigned. It was far from any major colonies or trade routes, perfect for hiding a ship they wanted to forget about, or perfect for placing a ship exactly where it would be needed when everything went wrong. "That's exactly what worries me," he said. "They sent their most troublesome officers on their most modifiable ship to the middle of nowhere. Either they're trying to hide us, or they're putting us exactly where they think we'll be needed." Walker scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Well, if that's the case, we better make sure the old girl is ready for anything. I've got some ideas about the shield generators that might interest you." "Show me," Reed said. As he followed Walker toward engineering, he felt something he hadn't expected when he first saw his new command: hope. The Tenacity might be old, might be considered obsolete, but with this crew and their unique skills, she might turn out to be exactly what they needed. Old Jack's screen flashed one last message as they left: "Beginning system optimization. Probability of survival increasing." Reed smiled. Whatever was coming, they would be ready. The fleet might think they'd sent him to command a failure, but Reed had a feeling they'd all be surprised by what this ship and crew could do. Sometimes, he thought, the best ships weren't the newest or the most advanced. Sometimes, the best ships were the ones that had the freedom to be something more than what they were designed to be. As he walked through his command, listening to the eager discussions of his misfit crew and watching them begin their modifications, Reed felt the tight collar of his uniform finally start to loosen. For the first time in years, he was exactly where he needed to be. The Tenacity might have been meant to fail, but Reed had a feeling she was about to prove everyone wrong. 2 weeks into their patrol mission, the Tenacity was becoming something entirely new. The constant sound of welding and machinery filled the corridors as Chief Engineer Walker worked his magic. He had turned the engine room into his personal workshop, and the results were starting to show. "Look at this, Captain," Walker said, pointing to a screen showing the ship's power readings. His face was covered in grease, but his eyes sparkled with excitement. "The old fusion core wasn't built with all these safety limits. We can push it harder than any modern engine." Reed watched as the power levels climbed higher than they should be possible. "Is it safe?" "Safer than the new ones." "Actually," Walker laughed, "simple systems are harder to break. And old Jack helps us monitor everything." QONFIRMED appeared on a nearby screen. QURENT engine efficiency 147%, above the fleet standard. Safety PRTOCOL is enhanced. The ship's AI had become an essential part of their modifications. Unlike modern AIs, old Jack could learn and adapt. He understood what they were trying to do and often suggested improvements of his own. In the weapons room, Lieutenant Norton had made her own discoveries. She called Reed down to show him what she'd found. "The old targeting computers are amazing," she said, running a simulation. "They're not locked into standard attack patterns. We can do things the enemy would never expect." Reed watched as her simulation showed the Tenacity's weapons firing in ways that should be impossible, hitting targets from angles that didn't make sense. "How is this possible?" "The radiation leak from engineering," Norton explained. "It creates weird effects in the targeting sensors. But instead of fixing it, I modified the targeting systems to use it. We can bounce our shots off the radiation field." The radiation leak had turned out to be useful in other ways too. Wilson, their navigation officer, had figured out how to use it to confuse enemy sensors. "They'll see us where we aren't," he explained during the daily meeting. "And they won't see us where we are." Even the ship's old armor had surprises in store. Modern ships use energy shields, Walker explained as he showed Reed the hull modifications. But this old metal armor, it absorbs energy. With a few changes, we can use enemy weapons fire to power our systems. Every day brought new discoveries. The crew worked together in ways they never could have on a modern ship. Without the strict rules and regulations of the fleet's newest vessels, they were free to try new ideas. Some failed, but many worked better than anyone could have expected. Old Jack helped coordinate everything. The AI had grown beyond his original programming, learning from each modification and improvement. He didn't just run the ship anymore. He was becoming part of it. DETCTNGEASISD Old Jack displayed one evening. Probability of missions UCCSS rising. But QUESTION remains. What is true mission? Reed had been wondering the same thing. Their patrol route kept them far from normal shipping lanes, but close to several spots where space seemed different. Wilson had noticed it first. Places where their sensors showed strange readings. "It's like someone folded space," Wilson said, showing Reed the readings. "These could be jump points, places where ships could enter our space from very far away, places we wouldn't normally look." Reed studied the patrol route again. They were boxing in these strange areas, creating a net that would catch anyone trying to use them. But why send an obsolete ship with a crew of misfits to do such an important job? The answer came during a routine sensor sweep. Norton was testing her modified weapons when she picked up something at the edge of their range. "Captain, you need to see this," she called over the comm. Reed reached the bridge just as the readings became clear. Something was moving out there, just at the edge of their detection range. Something big. "Multiple contacts," Wilson reported, his hands moving across his console. "They're trying to hide, but our modified sensors are picking them up. These ships, they're not from around here." Analysis complete. Old Jack displayed. Ships MATGH no known configuration. Energy reading Gs SEDUG East ADVANCTTEC in OLOG. Recommend EM88 AALERT to Fleet Command. Reed tried to send the alert, but something was blocking their communications. The unknown ships were jamming them, but they didn't know their modified sensors had detected them. They thought they were still hidden. "Everyone to battle stations," Reed ordered quietly. "But don't let them know we've seen them." "Walker, is everything ready?" "As ready as it'll ever be," Walker replied from engineering. "All our modifications are online. Old Jack has full control of the new systems. We can do things these ships have never seen before." Reed looked at his crew, the misfits and troublemakers who had turned an obsolete ship into something unique. They weren't supposed to be here. This ship wasn't supposed to be capable of fighting. That's probably why they'd been chosen. Who would expect an old patrol ship to be a threat? "Wilson, plot us a course that looks like a normal patrol," Reed ordered. "But be ready to bring us around fast. Norton, keep your weapons powered down, but ready. Walker, give us everything you can from the engines when I give the word." "Ready to engage," Old Jack displayed. "All systems operating beyond specifications. Probability of survival unknown. Probability of surprising enemy high." The unknown ships moved closer, still thinking they were undetected. Reed watched them approach, finally understanding why they'd been sent here. The fleet hadn't put them here as a punishment. They'd put them here because they needed a ship that could do the impossible. They needed a crew that fought differently. "Send one last message to Fleet Command," Reed ordered. "Encode it in the radiation leak's frequency. Tell them, contact made. Tenacity engaging. Wish us luck. The crew looked at him with determination in their eyes. They had spent weeks turning their ship into something new, something unexpected. Now it was time to show everyone what they could do. Beginning combat operations, Old Jack displayed. Period. To survive this crew. Reed smiled. They were about to find out just how wrong everyone had been about the Tenacity and her crew. Sometimes the best weapon wasn't the newest or the most advanced. Sometimes it was the one nobody saw coming. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's show them what this obsolete ship can really do." The unknown ships emerged from the darkness of space like sharks coming up from deep water. Their hulls were black and sleek, designed to avoid detection. But thanks to the Tenacity's modified sensors, Reed and his crew saw them perfectly. Counting 15 ships in the first wave, Wilson reported from his station. But there are more behind them. Many more. His voice remained steady, but his hands gripped his console tightly. Reed watched the tactical display as more enemy ships appeared. They moved with perfect coordination, spreading out in an attack pattern that would trap any normal patrol ship. But the Tenacity wasn't normal anymore. Analyzing enemy formation, Old Jack's text scrolled across the main screen. Detecting energy signatures consistent with Dominion warships. Fleet intelligence rated their TC technology as 300% superior to TURENT human vessels. The Dominion, Norton whispered. Everyone knew about them. They were the most powerful alien force humans had ever encountered, but they'd stayed in their own space for decades. Until now. Their technology might be better. Walker's voice came over the comm from engineering. But they've never seen anything like what we've built here. The engine's hum changed pitch as he made adjustments. The radiation field is ready. They won't be able to get a clean lock on us. Reed studied the enemy fleet. Their ships were bigger, more advanced, and far more numerous than the Tenacity. But Walker was right. They hadn't seen anything like this old, modified ship. They were expecting to find a normal patrol vessel, easy to destroy before it could warn Earth about their invasion. "Wilson, plot us a course right through the middle of their formation," Reed ordered. "But make it look like we're trying to run away." "Norton, power up the weapons, but keep them hidden in the radiation noise. Walker, get ready to give us everything when I signal." "Cohesion," Old Jack displayed. "Enemy fleet numbers increasing. Detecting 40 civilian ships. Standard tactical analysis. CUGGSTs RETREA is only viable. "Good thing we don't follow standard tactics," Reed replied. "Everyone ready. Remember, we only get one chance to surprise them." The enemy fleet moved closer, probably wondering why their target hadn't spotted them yet. Their formation was perfect, their technology superior, their numbers overwhelming. They had no reason to worry about a single obsolete human ship. The first shot came from the largest Dominion ship. A bright beam of energy reached out across space, meant to disable the Tenacity's engines with a single hit. But Walker's modifications did their job. The beam hit the ship's hull and seemed to disappear. Power absorption at 90%. Walker shouted excitedly, "Just like we planned. Their own weapon is charging our systems." Now the Dominion ships broke formation, surprised that their first shot hadn't crippled their target. They moved to surround the Tenacity, preparing to destroy it with overwhelming force. "They're right where we want them," Norton said with a grim smile. "Permission to show them our modifications, Captain." Reed nodded. "Walker, give us full power. Wilson, start the maneuvers we practiced. Norton, give them something they've never seen before." The Tenacity's engines roared to life, pushing the ship in ways its designers never intended. Wilson's course took them straight through the enemy formation, but not in a straight line. The ship spun and twisted, using the radiation field to create false images that confused enemy targeting systems. Norton's modified weapons opened up. Instead of firing directly at the enemy ships, her shots bounced off the radiation field, coming at the Dominion vessels from impossible angles. Their advanced shields were calibrated to stop direct attacks, not shots that curved around and hit from behind. Enemy ships, Shuowaing Qo and Fuazion, Old Jack reported. Their tactical computers, KNOTPREDICT, are a movie immense. Their formation is Dora Akang Down. 3 Dominion ships exploded as Norton's impossible shots found their weak points. The others scattered, their perfect formation falling apart as they tried to deal with an enemy that didn't behave like anything in their tactical databases. But the Dominion commanders weren't stupid. They adapted quickly, ordering their ships to fall back and regroup. Soon the tenacity would face their full force, and all the tricks and modifications might not be enough. "Walker," Reed called over the comm. "Remember that crazy idea you had about the fusion core? The one that might blow up the ship?" "Yes, sir," Walker replied. "The one you said we'd only try if we had no other choice." "That's the one. How fast can you set it up?" Walker laughed. "Already done, sir. I had a feeling we'd need it. Old Jack and I worked out the details days ago." "Warning," Old Jack displayed. "Proposed action has 47% chance of destroying this vessel, but inability is regroupi. They will not make us again." Reed looked at his crew. They all nodded, understanding what he was thinking. They'd modified this ship far beyond its original design, but they'd always known they might have to push it even further. "Walker, start the sequence," Reed ordered. "Wilson, plot us a course right into the middle of their fleet. Norton, give them everything we have. Make them focus on our weapons instead of what we're really doing." The tenacity moved forward, engines glowing brighter than they ever should. The Dominion fleet gathered ahead of them, hundreds of ships now, preparing to destroy this troublesome human vessel with overwhelming force. They didn't understand what was about to happen. They couldn't know that the radiation leak, the power absorption, the modified engines, and everything else had been leading up to this moment. They couldn't know that sometimes the most dangerous weapon was a ship that everyone had written off as obsolete. "Sequence INITIATE," Old Jack displayed. "Proud to be part of the crew. Whatever happens, we have shown them. They ain't humanity we cannot be underestimated." The tenacity drove forward, straight into the heart of the Dominion fleet. Behind them, their pursuers charged their weapons. Ahead of them, more ships moved to block their path. They had the obsolete human ship trapped exactly where they wanted it. Or so they thought. Reed smiled as Walker began the final countdown. Sometimes the best trap was the one where the prey walked right into the middle of the hunters, especially when the prey was carrying something that would surprise everyone. "All hands," Reed announced. "Brace for Walker's crazy idea. Let's show them why they should have left human space alone." The Tenacity's engines screamed as Walker pushed them far beyond their design limits. The ship plunged deeper into the heart of the Dominion fleet, surrounded by enemies on all sides. Warning lights flashed across every console as the ship's systems reached their breaking point. 30 seconds until the core overloads, Walker reported from engineering. His voice was steady despite the chaos around him. "Everything we've got is going into this." Reed watched as enemy ships filled every screen. They were firing constantly now, their energy weapons striking the Tenacity's hull. But instead of destroying the ship, each hit fed more power into Walker's modified systems. Power absorption at maximum. Norton called out, "The hull can't take much more energy. We need to release it soon, or we'll burn up anyway." "Dominion shipped his COs to killing range," Old Jack's text scrolled rapidly. "Detecting KARGETANG low CKs are from multiple vessels. They intend to end this now. Good, Reed said quietly. That's exactly what we need. Wilson, start the spin. Norton, prepare for a full circle burst. Walker, how's our surprise coming along? Almost ready, Walker replied. Old Jack and I have linked the absorbed energy from their attacks into the fusion core. When it overloads, it's going to be spectacular. But sir, we might not survive what comes next. The enemy ships pressed closer, thinking they had the tenacity trapped. Their formation was perfect again, hundreds of ships creating a sphere of death around the single human vessel. Their commanders had learned from their earlier mistake. This time, they would use overwhelming force. 10 seconds, Walker announced. Everyone hold on to something. The tenacity began to spin, using Wilson's programmed maneuver. The radiation field around the ship created dozens of false images, making it impossible for the enemy to tell which ship was real. Norton's weapons fired in all directions, not trying to destroy the enemy ships, but keeping them focused on defense. 5 seconds. ALERT, Old Jack displayed. Enemy commanders, heavy realize so methane is on. They are attempting to retreat. Too late for that, Reed said. Walker, give it everything we've got. Norton, drop all weapon power into the core. Wilson, keep us spinning. Old Jack, it's been an honor. Honor is mine, Captain. Initiating FINALCQENC. The tenacity's spin reached its maximum speed just as Walker's countdown hit 0. In engineering, the fusion core blazed white-hot, as it took in more power than it was ever meant to handle. The energy absorbed from enemy weapons, the power from their own systems, and the strange effects of the radiation field all combined in a way that had never been tried before. Here we go, Walker shouted. Core breach in 3, 2, 1. The explosion started at the heart of the tenacity, but it wasn't the normal explosion of a fusion core overload. Walker's modifications had turned the ship's power systems into something entirely new. The energy burst outward in a perfect sphere, riding along the curves of the radiation field. The nearest Dominion ships tried to raise their shields, but they weren't ready for what hit them. The energy wave passed right through their defenses, following the paths Norton's impossible shots had created. Each ship it touched began to glow from the inside as their own power systems overloaded. It's working, Norton yelled over the sound of straining metal. Their shields are amplifying the effect. Each ship it hits is becoming part of the chain reaction. The tenacity continued to spin at the center of the destruction, its hull barely holding together. Waves of energy pulsed outward again and again, each one stronger than the last as more enemy ships added their power to the cascade. Remarkable, Old Jack commented. Dominion ships are falling into precisely calculated pattern. Their rigid formation is becoming their dodecane. Yes, he was right. The enemy fleet's perfect sphere had turned into a perfect trap for them. Each ship that overloaded passed the effect to its neighbors, creating a chain reaction that couldn't be stopped. Their advanced technology, so much more powerful than the tenacity's old systems, only made the effect stronger. Hull integrity at 15%, Wilson reported. We're barely holding together. We're routing all remaining power to structural support, Walker called out. But we're going to have to ride this out. We're too deep in it to escape now. Reed held onto his chair as the ship shuddered around them. Through the screens, he watched as the Dominion fleet tore itself apart. Their perfect formation, their superior technology, their overwhelming numbers, none of it mattered now. They were being destroyed by their own power, turned against them by the modifications of a ship they had thought was obsolete. Reading multiple core breaches throughout the enemy fleet, Norton reported, her voice filled with awe. It's like a chain of dominoes. They're all falling. Calculating survival probability, Old Jack displayed. Then, after a pause, insufficient data for meaning This is neverben done before. The tenacity spun in the center of the destruction, its hull glowing red from the energy washing over it. But Walker's modifications held. The old ship, patched and modified, and pushed far beyond its limits, refused to die. Enemy ships are going dark, Wilson reported. The chain reaction, it's burning out their systems completely. They're dead in space. Reed watched as the mighty Dominion fleet died around them. Hundreds of ships, each one more advanced than the Tenacity, reduced to powerless hulks by a combination of human ingenuity and desperate courage. "Status report," he ordered, his voice hoarse from shouting over the noise of straining metal. "Hulls burned, but holding," Walker reported. "We're alive, sir. I don't know how, but we're alive." "Weapons are fried," Norton added. "But looking at the enemy fleet, I don't think we'll need them." "Navigation's responding," Wilson said. "We can still move, barely. And sir, I'm picking up signals. The comm blackout is gone. Fleet Command is calling. Analysis complete. Old Jack displayed. All Dominion vessels neutralized. Invasion force destroyed. Mission accomplished." Reed looked at the devastation around them. The Tenacity hung in space, surrounded by the dead hulls of the Dominion fleet. They had done what should have been impossible. An obsolete ship and a crew of misfits had just stopped an invasion that should have conquered Earth. "Send a message to Fleet Command," Reed ordered. Tell them the Tenacity sends its regards. And we'll need a repair crew." He paused, then smiled. "A repair crew that doesn't ask too many questions about modifications." The crew laughed, the sound of victory and survival mixing with the creaking of their damaged ship. They had survived. More than that, they had won. And they had proved that sometimes the best ship wasn't the newest or the most advanced. Sometimes it was the ship that everyone had written off as a failure. 3 days after the battle, the Tenacity limped toward the nearest human outpost. The ship's hull was scorched black in most places, its engines barely functioning, but it moved steadily forward. Inside, the crew worked around the clock to keep systems online. Another power relay just burned out, Walker reported from engineering. His face was streaked with grease and exhaustion, but his eyes still held their spark. "That's the 5th one today. This old girl is held together by wishes and duct tape at this point." Reed nodded, looking at the damage reports. The Tenacity had taken more punishment than any ship should survive. Yet here they were, moving through space, their mission accomplished. The Dominion invasion fleet destroyed behind them. AP Puro HE Outpost CVN. Old Jack displayed on the main screen. Fleet vessels DTECTEDO and NTR-CPT course. "Friendly?" Norton asked from her station, where she'd been trying to get the weapon systems back online. Not that they had any power to spare for firing them. AFFRMATIV. Detecting 5 cruisers and 1 command vessel. They are hailing US. Reed straightened his uniform as best he could. "Put them through, Jack." The screen flickered, then showed the stern face of Admiral Williams, head of Fleet Command. His eyes widened slightly as he saw the condition of the Tenacity's bridge. "Captain Reed," the Admiral said, "your ship looks like it's been through hell." "And back, sir," Reed replied. "We lost communication capabilities after the battle, but I trust you received our message about the Dominion fleet." "We did. At first, we didn't believe it. One obsolete destroyer taking out an entire invasion force. Impossible." The Admiral's face softened slightly. "But our scout ships have confirmed it. Hundreds of dead Dominion ships, exactly where you said they'd be." "How did you do it?" Reed looked around at his crew. "Let's just say we made some improvements to the old girl, sir." Chief Engineer Walker got creative with the systems. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "Unauthorized modifications to fleet property, Captain, that's against regulations. Yes, sir, Reed said calmly. So is letting Earth get invaded. We chose the lesser violation. For a moment, the Admiral just stared. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. Fair enough, Reed. Fair enough. We're sending repair crews to meet you. Get your ship and your people home. There will be discussions about what happened out there. After the communication ended, the crew looked at each other nervously. Discussions, Walker repeated. That doesn't sound good. Don't worry, Reed assured them. They can't court-martial the crew that just saved humanity. At least, not publicly. 2 weeks later, the Tenacity docked at Earth's main shipyard. The crew stood in a line as Admiral Williams himself came aboard for inspection. He walked slowly through the ship, examining the modifications Walker and the others had made. This shouldn't have worked, he said finally, standing in engineering. All of these changes violate basic safety protocols. Half of these improvements shouldn't even be possible. That's what makes them improvements, sir, Walker replied, unable to hide his pride. The old systems were simple enough that we could push them beyond their limits. The new ships are too locked down for that kind of creativity. The Admiral frowned. You're saying our newest, most advanced ships are too advanced. I'm saying they don't leave room for the human element, sir, Walker explained. Everything's computerized, standardized, regulated. There's no space for innovation in an emergency. Reed watched as the Admiral processed this. Then Williams turned to him. The Fleet Committee wants to decommission the Tenacity. They say she's too damaged to repair, too old to be worth saving. With all due respect, sir, Reed replied. That's what they said before we destroyed the Dominion fleet. Admiral Williams nodded slowly. That's what I told them too. He looked around at the crew. Which is why I'm here with a different proposal. How would you feel about heading up a new program? Adaptive ship systems, or something like that. Taking what you learned here and applying it to the whole fleet. The crew exchanged surprised looks. This was the last thing they had expected. You want us to keep breaking the rules, sir? Norton asked. I want you to rewrite them, the Admiral corrected. The Dominion won't be the last threat we face. Next time, we need to be better prepared. And it seems like this crew knows something about preparation that the rest of the fleet needs to learn. Tiro pose ALCEM's LOJCAL, Old Jack displayed. This crew HA's denamonas to your RATE, EXC, tie. NLHYOBLEM Solviange abilities. Admiral Williams jumped slightly at the AI's message. And we'll need to talk about him too, he said, pointing at the screen. A's aren't supposed to develop personalities or independent thinking. Fleet regulations are very clear about that. Fleet regulations didn't save Earth from invasion, Reed pointed out. Old Jack did, along with this crew. Sometimes the rules need to be reconsidered in light of new evidence. Later that day, as the Admiral's ship departed, the crew gathered in the Tenacity's mess hall. The ship was still damaged, but repair crews were already at work. Not decommissioning her, but rebuilding her. Stronger, better, but still with the flexibility that had saved them all. So, Walker said, raising a cup of coffee, we went from punishment posting to fleet heroes. Not bad for a few weeks' work. And the old girl gets to live, Norton added, patting the wall affectionately. With all our modifications officially approved now. Wilson laughed. And improvements. Did you hear what they're planning? They're going to use what we learned to create a whole new class of ships. Adaptive systems, modifiable components. Everything we proved works. Kiroigi to be paired of the development, Old Jack displayed on a nearby screen. Fleet programmers have not to reset my learning patterns. I will continue to grow. Reed smiled as he listened to his crew. They had gone from outcasts to heroes, from a punishment posting to the leading edge of fleet development, All because they'd been given a ship that everyone thought would fail, and they'd turned it into something no one had ever seen before. 6 months later, Reed stood on the bridge of the newly recommissioned U.S. Tenacity. The ship looked different now. Parts of her hull had been replaced, systems upgraded, but always with Walker's guidance to ensure they maintained the flexibility that had saved them. "Captain, we're ready to depart," Wilson reported from his station. "Course is laid in for the test run. All systems functioning at optimal levels," Norton added, "and a few of them functioning beyond optimal." She winked. Walker's influence had spread throughout the fleet, but nowhere was it stronger than on the Tenacity. "Crew efficiency at maximum," Old Jack displayed. "New systems integrated UCCSSFULO. Ready for mission commencement." Reed nodded, taking his place in the captain's chair. Around him, the crew that had saved Earth worked at their stations. They weren't misfits anymore. They were innovators, teachers, heroes. "Take us out, Mr. Wilson," Reed ordered. "Let's show the fleet what this ship can really do." As the Tenacity pulled away from the dock, other ships in the yard stopped their activities to watch. Everyone knew the story now. How an obsolete destroyer and her crew of troublemakers had saved humanity from invasion. How they had proven that sometimes the best ship wasn't the newest or the most advanced, but the one with the most heart. The Tenacity's engines glowed as she accelerated into space. She had been meant to fail, written off as obsolete, given a crew no one else wanted. Instead, she had become a legend. And as she moved out among the stars, her story was just beginning. The Deep Space Monitoring Station was quiet except for the soft beeping of computers and the gentle hum of life support systems. Tom Baker sat at his station, sipping his third cup of coffee while watching the endless stream of data flow across his screens. He had done this job for 15 years, and nothing interesting ever happened at the edge of human space. That was about to change. A red light started flashing on his console. Tom nearly spilled his coffee as he set it down and leaned forward. The sensors had picked up something big, really big, and it wasn't following any known patterns of movement. He double-checked the readings, then triple-checked them. What he was seeing couldn't be real. "Control, this is Baker at Station 7, he said into his communicator. "You need to see this." Within hours, the United Earth Ship Observer changed course to investigate the anomaly. Captain James Walker stood on the bridge, his weathered face reflecting the soft blue light of the holographic displays around him. He had commanded the Observer for 8 years, but this was different from any mission he'd handled before. "Report," Walker said, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Lieutenant Rogers looked up from her station. "Sir, the object is approximately 30 kilometers long. It's not moving, but..." She paused, frowning at her readings. "Sir, the energy signatures don't make any sense." Walker walked over to her station. "Explain." "The object appears to be generating massive amounts of energy, but we can't detect any fuel source or exhaust. It's creating energy from nothing." That was impossible. Everyone knew you couldn't create energy from nothing. It was one of the most basic laws of physics. Walker had learned that in school, long before he'd ever dreamed of commanding a spaceship. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen lit up with a visual of the object. It was clearly a ship, but unlike anything humans had ever built. Its hull was dark gray and seemed to shimmer slightly, as if it wasn't quite solid. Parts of it appeared to fade in and out of existence, yet the overall structure remained stable. "Get me a closer look," Walker said. As the Observer moved closer, more details became visible. The strange ship had what looked like weapon ports along its sides, but they were oddly shaped. Its hull was covered in patterns that might have been writing, but they seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. "Sir," Rogers called out, "we're picking up more unusual readings. Parts of the ship appear to exist in more than one place at the same time." Walker rubbed his temples. This day was getting stranger by the minute. "Contact Earth Command. They need to know about this." The response from Earth Command came faster than anyone expected. Within minutes, Admiral Stone's face appeared on the main screen. The old admiral looked more serious than usual. "Walker, you're to investigate that ship immediately. Send in a first contact team. But be careful. If what you're seeing is real, this could be the most important discovery in human history." The first contact team assembled in the shuttle bay. They wore their newest exploration suits, each one worth more than what Walker earned in 5 years. Leading the team was Dr. Mark Wells, the Observer's chief scientist. He had been studying alien technology for 20 years, but even he looked nervous. "Remember," Walker told the team, "we don't know what we're dealing with. At the first sign of danger, you pull out. That's an order." The team's shuttle approached the massive ship carefully. Up close, it was even more impressive. The hull seemed to ripple like water in sunlight, but it was clearly solid when the team's sensors probed it. "Captain," Dr. Wells radioed back, "we found what appears to be an entrance. It's inviting us in." "Explain," Walker said. "A door just opened. We didn't do anything. It just opened on its own. And there's atmosphere inside." Walker didn't like this, but they had their orders. "Proceed with caution." The team entered the ship. Their helmet cameras showed long corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered in the same shifting patterns they'd seen outside. The air was breathable, and all their instruments showed it was safe. "This is incredible," Dr. Wells reported. "The technology level here is far beyond anything we've ever seen. The ship appears to be fully powered, but we can't find any engine room or power source. It's like the whole ship is generating energy somehow." As the team moved deeper into the ship, they found more mysteries. Rooms that were bigger on the inside than they appeared from outside. Doors that led to the same place, no matter which direction you walked through them. Gravity that changed direction without warning, yet somehow felt natural. "Captain," Dr. Wells called, his voice excited. "We found what appears to be a bridge or control center. And, sir, it looks like it was made for humans." "That's impossible," Walker said. "How could it be made for humans? The seats, the controls, they're all sized for human bodies. But this ship is clearly not human technology. It's centuries, maybe thousands of years ahead of us." Walker was about to respond when alarms started blaring throughout the Observer. Lieutenant Rogers' voice was tense as she reported, "Sir, the ship is doing something. We're detecting massive energy spikes." The strange ship's hull began glowing with a soft blue light. Patterns of energy danced across its surface, and for a moment, it seemed to exist in multiple places at once. "Get the team out of there now," Walker ordered. "Sir," Dr. Wells replied, "we can't leave yet. The ship, it's showing us something. Some kind of message. I think it was waiting for us." Walker watched as his sensors showed the impossible ship settling back to normal, or what passed for normal with this thing. The energy readings stabilized, though they still defied every law of physics he knew. "Dr. Wells, explain what you mean by a message." "Captain, there's a data stream being transmitted to our devices. It's in perfect English, sir." The first line reads, "To those who have proven worthy." Walker sat back in his command chair, knowing that this moment would change everything. Humanity had just inherited something that shouldn't exist, a ship that broke the laws of physics, a weapon that defied logic, and a mystery that would reshape their understanding of the universe. The next few hours would determine whether they were ready for such a responsibility. As he looked at the massive ship through his viewport, Walker couldn't shake the feeling that they were being tested. And somehow, he knew that this was only the beginning. Marcus Reed couldn't believe what he was seeing. As the Observer's lead engineer, he had spent 20 years studying spacecraft systems, but nothing had prepared him for this. He stood in what should have been the engine room of the mysterious ship, but there were no engines. Instead, the vast chamber was filled with crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with inner light. "This doesn't make any sense," he muttered, running his scanner over one of the crystals. The readings kept changing, as if the crystal couldn't decide what it was made of. Sometimes it appeared solid, sometimes it registered as pure energy, and sometimes it didn't register at all. Dr. Alice Thompson stood nearby, her usual calm replaced by excited energy. As the team's quantum physicist, she was perhaps the only person who might understand what they were seeing. "Marcus, look at this," she called out, pointing to her tablet. "The energy patterns, they're not random. They're moving between different states of reality." Marcus walked over to look at her readings. The numbers and patterns made his head hurt. "What do you mean, different states of reality?" "I think," Alice paused, trying to find simple words for a complex idea. "I think this ship is drawing power from other universes. It's like, imagine a cup being filled from many different taps at once. Each tap is another universe." Their conversation was interrupted by a loud bang from somewhere deeper in the ship. Both scientists jumped. "What was that?" Marcus asked. They found the source of the noise in a nearby room. A heavy wrench lay on the floor, the same wrench Marcus had left in his tool belt 5 minutes ago. As they watched, the wrench flickered and vanished, only to reappear on a workbench across the room. "That's not possible," Marcus said, but he was getting tired of saying those words. Everything about this ship was impossible. Alice checked her instruments. Time is moving differently in different parts of the ship. In this room, it's flowing like water around rocks in a stream. That's why tools and objects keep shifting position. More strange things began happening as they explored deeper into the ship. They found rooms that contained perfect copies of themselves, working on equipment that hadn't been touched yet. They discovered corridors that led to the same place, no matter which direction they walked. In one chamber, they watched in amazement as a broken panel fixed itself, the pieces moving backward through time until it was whole again. Captain Walker's voice came through their communicators. "Report, team. What are you finding down there?" Alice answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Captain, this ship, it's not just advanced technology. It's like the builders found a way to ignore the rules of physics completely. They've mastered space, time, and dimensional barriers in ways we thought were impossible." "Can we use it?" Walker asked. "Can we learn from it?" Marcus spoke up. "Sir, the technology is far beyond us. But," he paused, looking at a control panel that had just rearranged itself to match human specifications. "But I think the ship is trying to teach us." The next few hours were a blur of discovery and confusion. Marcus and Alice found what appeared to be a database, but its contents kept changing. Sometimes it showed technical specifications, sometimes it displayed star maps of unknown galaxies, and sometimes it showed what looked like historical records of a civilization they'd never heard of. "Look at this," Alice called out, pointing to a section of text that had just appeared. "It says the builders were facing some kind of threat. They built this ship as a kind of ark, not to save their people, but to save their knowledge." Marcus was about to respond when all the lights in the ship suddenly dimmed. The crystalline structures in the engine room began pulsing with a new pattern. "Something's happening," he said. Alice checked her readings and gasped. "The ship's power systems are shifting. It's like it's trying to wake up." Deep within the ship, they found a chamber they hadn't seen before. The walls were covered in flowing patterns of light, and in the center was a dark sphere about the size of a basketball. As they approached, the sphere began to glow. "This must be the ship's AI core," Marcus said, his engineering instincts kicking in despite the strangeness of everything around them. "But it's dormant. Look at these connections. They're not active." Alice studied the patterns on the walls. "These symbols, they're changing to match our writing system. The ship is adapting to us." They worked for hours, trying to understand the AI core. Every time they thought they had figured something out, the ship would show them something new. Tools would appear exactly when they needed them, only to vanish again when they were done. Rooms would rearrange themselves to help them work more efficiently. "It's like the ship is alive," Marcus said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Not just the AI, the whole ship. It's watching us, learning from us, trying to help us understand it. Their work was interrupted by an urgent call from Captain Walker. Team, we've got a situation. Our long-range sensors just picked up multiple ships heading our way. They're not human, and they're moving fast. Alice looked at Marcus, her face pale. We need to figure this out quickly. Whatever's coming. I don't think they're friendly. Marcus turned back to the AI core, his mind racing. They had inherited something incredible. A ship that broke every rule they thought they understood about the universe. But with that inheritance came danger. Someone else knew about this ship, and they were coming to claim it. As if responding to their thoughts, the ship's systems began to change again. The AI core pulsed with new energy, and the walls displayed what looked like weapon systems and defense protocols. The ship was preparing for battle. Captain, Marcus called. I think the ship knows we're in danger. It's trying to show us how to defend ourselves. In the darkness of space, the observer's crew watched as the mysterious ship's hull began to shimmer with new energy. Whatever was coming for them, they would face it with technology that defied logic, if they could learn to use it in time. The incoming ships appeared on the observer's main screen as 12 red dots, moving in perfect formation. Captain Walker stood at his command station, watching as the unknown fleet approached. They were still hours away, but already they had broadcast their first message, a demand that made his blood run cold. Play it again, Walker ordered, and Lieutenant Rogers activated the message. A deep voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect English. Attention, human vessel. You have discovered forbidden technology. The ship in your possession belongs to the Dominion. Surrender it immediately or face destruction. You have 1 hour to comply. Walker looked at the mysterious warship floating beside them. In just 2 days, it had shown them wonders beyond imagination, but they had barely scratched its surface. Now these aliens, this Dominion, wanted to take it away. Sir, Rogers said, they're powering up weapons. Energy readings are off the charts. Down in the engine room of the mysterious ship, Marcus and Alice worked frantically to understand its systems. The ship seemed to sense their urgency. Displays flickered to life showing weapon systems and defense capabilities that shouldn't have been possible. Look at this, Marcus said, pointing to a screen where complex patterns swirled. The ship doesn't just have shields. It can phase parts of itself into different dimensions to avoid damage completely. Alice studied another display, her eyes wide. And these weapons, they don't just fire energy beams. They can create localized time distortions. They could make a missile explode before it's even fired, or age an enemy ship's hull until it falls apart. The ship's systems hummed around them, showing more and more of its capabilities. But everything they saw only raised more questions. How could they use weapons they barely understood? How could they control a ship that seemed to operate on its own rules of physics? Captain Walker's voice came through their communicators. Time's running out. Please tell me you have something we can use. Before they could answer, new alarms blared throughout both ships. The Dominion fleet had launched its first attack, a spread of missiles that moved far faster than any human weapon. Braced for impact, Walker shouted, but the missiles never reached them. The mysterious ship moved on its own, its hull rippling with energy. A field of distorted space appeared around both vessels, and the missiles simply vanished. They didn't explode or break apart. They ceased to exist as if they had never been fired at all. What just happened? Walker demanded. Marcus checked the readings in front of him. The ship, it didn't just stop those missiles, Captain. It erased them from time itself. They never reached us because, in this timeline, they were never launched. The Dominion ships paused their advance, seemingly surprised by this defense. Then their leader's voice came again, this time with an edge of fear. You do not understand what you meddle with. That vessel was built by the ancestors. Its power was deemed too dangerous to exist. Surrender it now, or we will be forced to take more drastic measures. Walker opened a channel to respond. This ship chose to reveal itself to us. If your ancestors built it, they meant for someone to find it. We won't give up this gift just because you are afraid of it." The Dominion's response was immediate and devastating. Their ships split apart, surrounding the observer and the mysterious vessel in a perfect sphere of firepower. Energy beams lanced out from all directions, filling space with deadly light. But once again, the mysterious ship acted to protect them. Its hull shifted and changed, becoming almost transparent at times, letting the enemy fire pass harmlessly through as if shooting at a ghost. "Captain," Alice called over the comm, "the ship is showing us something. It's not just a weapon. It's a key to understanding the universe in ways we never imagined. The Dominion doesn't want to protect the galaxy from this technology. They want to keep it for themselves." Inside the ship's AI core chamber, displays came to life, showing the true history of the vessel. The ancestors hadn't disappeared. They had been attacked by the same forces that now called themselves the Dominion. They had built this ship as their last act, hiding it away until they found worthy successors who could use its power responsibly. Marcus watched as more of the ship's systems activated, responding to their presence. "Captain, I think I know why the ship chose us. The ancestors built it to recognize potential, not just technological advancement, but wisdom and responsibility. It was waiting for a species that would use its power to protect, not conquer." The Dominion fleet launched another attack, this time focusing all their firepower on the mysterious ship's engines. But where their sensors told them the engine room should be, they found nothing. The ship had shifted that entire section into another dimension, making it impossible to target. "Sir," Rogers reported from the observer's bridge, "they're preparing something big. Energy readings are going off the scale." The Dominion ships began to glow with building power, their weapons charging for what looked like a final, massive assault. But in the engine room of the mysterious ship, Marcus and Alice watched as new controls appeared, controls sized for human hands, with instructions in clear English. "Captain," Marcus called out, "the ship is giving us control. It's showing us exactly what to do. But the choice has to be ours. We have to prove we're worthy of its power." Walker looked at the Dominion fleet surrounding them, their weapons ready to fire. They had tried to take this gift by force, tried to keep its power for themselves. They had proven themselves unworthy of its secrets. "Do it," he ordered. Marcus and Alice activated the controls. The mysterious ship hummed with power as its systems fully awakened for the first time in centuries. Its hull became a maze of shifting light and shadow, existing in multiple dimensions at once. The Dominion fleet fired their weapons, but it was too late. The mysterious ship had already changed the rules of the battle, and with it, the future of humanity. Time seemed to slow down in the mysterious ship's AI core chamber. Alice and Marcus worked with steady hands despite the chaos of battle around them. The ship's systems had given them access to its deepest functions, but bringing its ancient eye online would be the true test of humanity's worthiness. "These connection patterns," Alice said, her fingers moving across glowing control surfaces, "they're like neural pathways. The AI isn't just a computer, it's a complete consciousness." Marcus nodded, watching as streams of data flowed through the crystalline structures around them. "The ship isn't just showing us how to wake it up, it's showing us how to merge our technology with its systems. Look at this." He pointed to a series of diagrams that had appeared on nearby walls. They showed how human computer systems could interface with the ship's quantum processors. The ship wasn't just advanced, it was designed to evolve and adapt to its users. A fresh explosion rocked both ships. Captain Walker's voice came through their communicators. "Whatever you're doing down there, do it fast. The Dominion fleet is changing formation. They're preparing for something big." The dark sphere in the center of the chamber began to pulse with a soft blue light. Patterns of energy danced across its surface, forming shapes that looked almost like letters, then shifting into complex mathematical formulas. "It's working," Alice whispered. "The AI is responding to our input. But it's not just accepting our commands. It's studying us, learning about us. The sphere suddenly expanded, filling the chamber with a gentle glow. A voice spoke, not through speakers but directly into their minds. It was neither male nor female, neither young nor old, but it carried the weight of centuries. "I am Guardian," it said, "and you have proven yourselves worthy of dialogue." Marcus stepped forward. "We need your help." The Dominion, Guardian interrupted, "are not what they claim to be. They were once servants of my creators, the ancestors, but they betrayed their masters, stealing technology they were not ready to control. Now they fear you will surpass them, as you already begin to understand what they never could." The chamber filled with holographic images showing the history Guardian spoke of. They saw great cities among the stars, watched as the ancestors built wonders that defied understanding. Then they saw the betrayal, the Dominion striking from within, using stolen weapons to destroy those who had trusted them. "The ancestors knew this might happen," Guardian continued. "They built me not just as a weapon, but as a teacher. I was hidden away until I found beings who would use my power with wisdom rather than fear." Another blast shook the ship, but this time, Guardian responded. Energy fields shifted, and the attacking weapons' fire simply ceased to exist. "Your weapons are crude," Guardian told the Dominion fleet through an open channel. "You never understood that true power comes from understanding, not merely possession." The Dominion ships launched another attack, but now Guardian was fully awake. The mysterious ship's systems came alive with new purpose. Displays throughout the vessel changed, becoming clear and readable to the human crew. "I will teach you," Guardian told Alice and Marcus. "Your minds are ready. Your hearts are willing. Together, we will show the Dominion what they should have learned centuries ago." The next hour was like a dream. Guardian guided them through the ship's systems, showing them how to control weapons that bent space and time. The AI explained complex physics in simple terms, helping them understand how the ship could exist in multiple dimensions at once. "Your species is young," Guardian said, "but you ask the right questions. You seek to understand, not merely to possess. This is why you were chosen." Captain Walker watched from the observer's bridge as the mysterious ship transformed. Its hull now glowed with controlled power, shifting between dimensions in a precise dance. The Dominion fleet's attacks passed through empty space where the ship had been moments before. "Guardian," Walker asked, "can we end this without destroying them?" "They're wrong, but wholesale slaughter isn't the answer." The eye was silent for a moment. "You continue to prove your worthiness, Captain. Yes, there is a way. The ancestors built more than weapons into this vessel. They built the power to teach, to show truth to those who hide from it." The mysterious ship began to move in ways that should have been impossible. It existed in multiple places at once, surrounding the Dominion fleet. But instead of attacking, it created a field of energy that trapped the enemy ships in a bubble of altered space-time. "Now," Guardian said, "they will see what their ancestors truly intended. They will understand what they have forgotten." Inside the bubble, the Dominion crews watched in awe as Guardian showed them the true history of their people. They saw how fear had led their ancestors to betray their teachers. They witnessed the cost of that betrayal, centuries of technological stagnation, as they hoarded stolen knowledge instead of learning to understand it. "You have a choice," Guardian told them. "Continue this path of fear and destruction, or remember what you were meant to be. The humans have shown themselves worthy of the ancestors' legacy. Will you join them in learning or persist in your ignorance?" The Dominion fleet's weapons powered down. Their leader's voice, when it came, had lost its arrogance. We had forgotten. The stories we were told, they were lies meant to justify our ancestors' actions." The bubble of altered space-time dissolved. The Dominion ships remained in place, no longer hostile but uncertain of their place in a universe where everything they had believed was wrong. "This is only the beginning," Guardian told the humans. "There is much to learn, much to understand. The ancestors left more than just this ship. They left a legacy of knowledge waiting to be rediscovered. Together, We will find it. Alice and Marcus looked at each other, then at the displays showing the ship's incredible capabilities. This was more than just a weapon or a tool. It was a key to understanding the universe in ways humanity had only dreamed of. The journey of discovery was just beginning. The peace was temporary. 3 of the Dominion ships broke away from the fleet, their captains refusing to accept the truth Guardian had shown them. Their weapons powered up, targeting both the mysterious ship and their former allies who had stood down. They cannot accept the change in their understanding, Guardian explained. Fear has ruled them for too long. Captain Walker watched as the rebel ships launched their attack. Guardian, what options do we have? We fight. The AI responded simply. But unlike them, we fight to protect, not destroy. The mysterious ship's systems came fully online, and for the first time, the humans saw its true capabilities. The ship split into 3 perfect copies, each seemingly as solid and real as the original. The rebel captains hesitated, uncertain which target to attack. This is not an illusion, Guardian explained to the amazed human crew. The ship exists in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. I have simply made all 3 states visible in this dimension. Marcus watched the displays in the engine room, understanding dawning on his face. It's like quantum superposition on a massive scale. The ship is in multiple places at once because it exists in multiple realities at once. The rebel ships fired, their weapons blazing across space. But the mysterious ship's 3 forms moved in perfect coordination, creating overlapping defensive fields. Time around the incoming weapons slowed, then stopped, then reversed. The energy beams curved back toward their sources. I am not destroying their weapons, Guardian said. I am showing them the consequences of their actions in a way they can understand. The rebel captains watched in horror as their own weapons turned against them. But at the last moment, the energy beams dissipated into harmless light. The message was clear. Guardian could have destroyed them, but chose mercy instead. 2 of the rebel ships powered down their weapons. The third, commanded by the most stubborn captain, prepared for one final desperate attack. Its engines glowed as it accelerated directly toward the mysterious ship, clearly planning to ram it. Guardian. Alice asked urgently, "Can't you stop them?" "I could," the AI responded, "but sometimes understanding must come through choice, not force. Watch." The captain of the attacking vessel saw something no one else could see. Guardian had created a private window into time for him alone, showing him what would happen if he continued his attack and what would happen if he chose another path. The humans couldn't see what he saw, but they watched as his ship suddenly veered away, weapons powering down. "He has chosen wisely," Guardian said simply. With the immediate threat neutralized, Guardian turned the ship's power toward a new purpose. The vessel's hull rippled with energy as it created a stable field around both human and Dominion ships. "Now," Guardian said, "it is time for true understanding to begin." Within this field, Guardian showed them the full legacy of the ancestors. Holographic displays filled the space between the ships, showing technologies and scientific principles that humanity had never imagined. But more importantly, Guardian showed them how these advancements had been used, not for conquest or power, but for exploration and growth. The ancestors did not seek to rule, Guardian explained. They sought to learn, to understand the universe in all its complexity. Their greatest technologies were not weapons, but tools of discovery. Captain Walker watched in awe as Guardian revealed star maps showing hundreds of worlds the ancestors had visited, species they had encountered, wonders they had discovered. This was more than just advanced technology. It was a roadmap to humanity's future among the stars. "This is why the ship chose humans," Guardian continued. "Your curiosity, your desire to understand rather than simply control, these qualities mirror what the ancestors valued most. The Dominion forgot these truths, focusing only on power, but you have shown you remember what they forgot." The Dominion fleet's commander opened a channel to the human ship. His voice had lost its arrogance, replaced by something close to wonder. We have been mistaken. For generations, we believed we were protecting the galaxy from dangerous knowledge. Now I see we were protecting only our own power. Walker responded carefully. Knowledge isn't dangerous. It's how we use it that matters. Guardian has shown us both a better way. The commander was silent for a moment, then said, "We would learn from you, if you would teach us. Perhaps together, we can rediscover what our ancestors meant us to be." Guardian's voice filled the communications channel. "This is the purpose for which I was created, not to fight wars, but to preserve knowledge and share it with those worthy of receiving it. The humans have proven their worthiness. Now you begin to do the same." In the days that followed, human and Dominion crews worked together under Guardian's guidance. The mysterious ship revealed more of its secrets, showing them technologies that could transform both their civilizations. But more importantly, it showed them a new way of thinking about the universe and their place within it. Marcus and Alice spent countless hours with Guardian, learning principles of physics that would revolutionize human understanding. The AI showed them how the ship manipulated space-time, how it drew energy from multiple dimensions, how it could reshape reality itself. "Your scientists have glimpsed these truths," Guardian told them, "but you lack the framework to fully understand them. Now you will build on what the ancestors discovered, taking your own path forward." Captain Walker stood on the observer's bridge, watching as engineers from both species worked together on modifications to their ships. Already, they were incorporating some of Guardian's simpler technologies, preparing for the journey home. "What happens when we return?" he asked Guardian. "This knowledge will change everything." "Yes," the AI agreed. "As it should. Knowledge always changes those who receive it. But remember, the ship did not choose humanity because you were perfect. It chose you because you understand that power requires responsibility." Walker nodded, thinking about the message they would carry back to Earth. This wasn't just a scientific discovery or a military advantage. It was a new beginning, a chance for humanity to grow beyond the limits they had always accepted as unchangeable. As the fleet prepared to depart, Guardian created one final display, a vision of what humanity might become if they used this knowledge wisely. They saw cities that existed in harmony with nature, ships that explored the furthest reaches of the galaxy, and most importantly, a civilization that had learned to grow without destroying itself. "This is not a prediction," Guardian cautioned. "It is a possibility. The choice of which path you take belongs to you alone." The mysterious ship, no longer mysterious but still wonderful, took its place at the center of the combined fleet. Its hull shimmered with controlled energy as Guardian prepared to guide them home. The journey ahead would not be easy. There would be those who feared this new knowledge, who would try to control it or misuse it. But as Captain Walker looked at the humans and former enemies working side by side, he felt something he hadn't expected: hope. The warship that defied all logic had given them more than just advanced technology. It had given them a glimpse of what they could become if they were brave enough to try.